How's it going again, friends? James here. So I figured I would provide an update. It's been about 5 months since my last update, and yeah, we've kind of tried a lot of different stuff. So I guess a bit of rewinding, So I'm now almost out of the military. Here in like 3 weeks. I actually will retire. So, which is good. We made it to the end, right? So yay! Congratulations, me. However, with that, I've started a new job. I'm actually working at Boeing here in good old Wichita, right? So, um, that with that came a lot of stress, right? Like I'm learning a new job, I'm doing a thing, right? And then on top of it, I'm dealing with the pelvic floor dyssynergia, right? So, and anismus and all of the things that you out there, all of you guys know all too well, right? So, um, that being said, it's been a rough I would say 3 weeks. I was doing pretty good there. However, then I got it in my head that I wanted to start stepping back on my medication and basically trying to. I've been living with diarrhea for the better part of, I would say, the past year, right? So, like many of you know, as long as you clear out every day, you feel fine, right? Sometimes you have to deal with some pelvic floor muscle problems, but that in itself is not terrible compared to the feeling that we feel like when we can't go, the muscles seizing up, stuff getting stuck in there. And I've actually been very open. I've told a lot of my coworkers about that, my boss, and they're very receptive. I've told them like, hey, even my doctor, she's like, hey, preferably you don't move shifts to where like you're completely throwing your schedule off, because I do have a set schedule every day. But yeah, so all that to say, I stepped back. So for a bit of debrief, I was on 290 Linzess, and that was pretty much giving me diarrhea every day, right? Clearing out every day and dealing a lot with rectal pain and stuff like that. I've obviously got hemorrhoids, as a result of constipation for years, that sort of thing, right? Um, was doable. I was able to get through every day and function, right. But the problem is you cannot get better living that way. And so me, I really want to start getting better. You have to get your body used to going to the bathroom normally and that sort of stuff. So I started stepping back on my pills. I moved down to the 145 Linzess. I took that for probably a good month and a half. Realized I was still getting diarrhea pretty much all the time. So I was like, okay, well, maybe this is too strong. Moved down to the 75. Same thing. I was having pretty much diarrhea all the time for about a month and a half, right? And so then I was like, okay, well, maybe it's the fact that, I guess a lot of people ask, like, how do you get Linzess to work? So I take it first thing in the morning, 30 minutes before breakfast, and I drink about 32 ounces of water. So a lot of that probably can create flushing, but for me, I found that it's just enough water to push whatever down into my stomach and get the pills to start working. I also do take take Nexium first thing in the morning as well, so that can constipate you. So I kind of foresee that as like kind of offsetting it a little bit. And so that's what I've been doing, and then I'll drink coffee with my breakfast every morning, and it's almost like magic. It works pretty much almost 90% of the time, right? So moved all the way down on the lowest dose of Linzess, and here about 2 weeks ago, I started just not feeling right. Started getting a lot of cramping. Started just not. I started feeling anxious, a lot of anxiety, and then about a week ago, I had a very very bad tightness episode, like really bad. And I knew it was coming on because like normal, I did my normal morning routine. Nothing really happened for a while. I felt fine for a little while, and then like it's almost like the stool got there and it got stuck, and that feeling, right? Eventually, I was able to pass like what initially was there. I found, so one thing that's been helping me is, so everybody talks about moo to poo, right? Instead, what I do is I go, and then as I come down, I like visualize. You know what I mean? And that's been helping me to pass those hard times. Well, this particular day, got past that, right? And then I ended up going, I think, another 2 times, but it was very thin, fragmented, just little blobs, right? Wasn't fully emptying, and then it just kind of kept happening. And on top of it, I was dealing with pelvic floor tightness that day, so it was kind of a combination thereof. Ultimately, it became very painful. I called my physical therapist, and they luckily got me in like as a emergency, like basically that day, like, hey, somebody canceled, here's an appointment. Ended up though still having to use enema to clear it out. Went back to her, talked to her, told her like everything that we've been doing because we've been stepping back. Well, she thinks that I kind of took it too far, and the fact that I stepped completely down on Linzess and then I moved from coffee to tea, she thinks that my system just kind of slowed maybe a little too much, and she wanted me to work on like bulking things out. So some things I have learned with this condition: bulking stools is very important. Not drying them out particularly, but bulking them. I found my body does not detect the signal down there if the stools are thin. They have to have some sort of heft to them, and then my body will signal, and then I'm able to just properly let it all out, right? Now, like today, I had a very similar situation, and it's weird because it's like a week apart, right? Where I went to work, did my normal routine, nothing happened. However, unlike last time, instead of being painful, I ended up getting a signal. It wasn't a strong one, but enough to kind of get the initial out. Did some running around because I felt fine for a little while, and eventually, like the little bits, kind of sneak their way down there, and you get that weird tense feeling down there. And my physical therapist has advised me and encouraged me, hey, if you have to, use an enema to feel better. But we need to offset that with stretching. I've been doing a whole lot of stuff lately because I'm trying to get my body more limber. So in combination with dealing with the dyssynergia, I also do have diagnosed back problems from workplace incident in the military, and they're actually talking about doing a discectomy. And so on my spine, on the left side, it's actually pinching a nerve. And I have found when I do like pelvic floor therapy, stretching, that sort of stuff, the entire left side of my body is incredibly stiff. My hip, there's a lot of pain in my hip. And that's also where my OI muscle, my misfiring left obturator internus, is at. So I'm planning on hopefully in like November getting the discectomy done because I cannot do it due to being so close to retiring out of the military. I basically have to wait to retire and then go through with the surgery. So that's kind of my goal: November, get that knocked out, and then hopefully that will allow me like more flexibility on the left side of my body. Maybe hopefully it won't be so stiff, and then maybe that'll help. That's kind of my hope. So if you're kind of new to dealing with it, you know that the ultimate solution to the problem, that's not really a solution, but it's more like, hey, we've done everything, is an ostomy bag. So that is not my plan right now. As of right now, if I really had to, I could go to 290 Linzess and just live off of that for the rest of my life and just deal with the pain elsewhere, right? However, we need to get better. And so that's kind of what I've resolved myself to. I am dealing a lot more with anxiety and stuff around bowel movements and that sort of stuff, but I've been doing a lot of other things. And so for this video, instead of just talking about like what I'm dealing with and how I'm dealing with it, I also did want to show you guys kind of some of the tools that I use down here in the basement, and kind of like my setup and what I've been doing to try to get better, right? So I think I talked about tools in the last video too, but this is going to be another tool video. All right, so welcome to my basement room. So I have my wife actually bought me this nice table here. So this is just a normal physical therapy table, right? And so I come down here and I use this mat to actually initially do stretching. And so Dr. Bree on YouTube, she has a wonderful series on pelvic floor health and that sort of stuff. There's a male on there. There's a male pelvic floor stretch routine that's like 30 minutes long. I come down here, I just lay on the floor. I'll throw on like an audiobook or something. And I've done the routine enough that now I've got it down and I can just listen to a book while I do it. But the goal is to relax completely. So get yourself a good set of yoga blocks. The cool thing is this set came with like this strap here. And so I use this strap to do some stretching out, like leg stretches, hip stretches, that sort of stuff, and it opens up the pelvic floor. One thing I have learned is that stretching routine is very, very good when my left OI muscle is tight. It does help me release it. So that's one of the things that I've been doing a lot. The next things, so I don't know if I showed these on the last video. So invest in a good pelvic floor wand. Now, these are both intimate rose sets, and so I have both sets of dilators that are included on their website. I bought literally everything they had. And the thing is, when you're doing this, because I see a lot of videos and comments on the Facebook pages asking about these. The thing is, you're going to be using the this long edge, but lubricate the shit out of this, like as much lubricant as you can, because the goal is not to dig into the muscles, but you need to be using like the tip inside here to figure out where the muscles are that are causing the problem and to get them to release. So you're not digging the muscles per se, but you're going to find them and try to get them to release. So for me, I generally have to fish around on the left side of my body, and then there's several points that my actual physical therapist has taught me. So definitely when you get one of these, take it to your physical therapist and have them teach you how to use it, and they'll show you kind of basically like the areas to hit. So the big ones are 3 o'clock and 9 o'clock if your obturator turnus is bad, depending on which side it is. And then whichever side that you're on. So like for me, sorry, I'm thinking clock. So mine is 9 o'clock because it's left side, right? You're also going to work up and down in that area because sometimes it could be up by your tailbone because that whole area is just a bunch of different muscles. The OI is more like kind of central in the middle. But you're going to find those sore spots and then target them. That is the goal. Like if you fish around and you're not really feeling anything sore, like for me, I set like a 10-minute timer. I hit as much as I can in that 10 minutes. And if I have to go beyond that, I don't. If I don't find tight spots, then I stop early. So you don't want to, because you can injure yourself more and cause your muscles to be even angrier if you like keep digging at them. So definitely don't do that. Don't recommend it. And definitely get with your physical therapist to figure out where the tight areas are and learn how to do it, especially if you're like a novice. So for me, my first physical therapist, Shelby, she talked me through how to use it. She didn't show me how to use it. But then when we figured out where the areas to target were, then that was kind of like my guideline. And so, yeah, don't hurt yourself. So that's the big thing. All right. So next are dilators. So dilators, these can be very handy. For me, I have found that these don't help nearly as much as the wand. The wand is definitely much more helpful than the dilators. However, the dilators are very good. So say you have a tight day, right? And you're afraid it's a little bit of stool that's still left up in there, and that's what's causing you to be uncomfortable. These sometimes can help you elicit a bowel movement without like relying on enemas and that sort of stuff. You do have to learn how to do it with these, but they can help with that. I do not recommend using them for that, but it can help with that. These also help you stretch the anal canal. So if you're dealing with a lot of tightness that is not like maybe sphincter related, that sort of stuff, then these can help you deal with that. I do find that I'll use my wand for like I said, about 10 minutes. Then I'll actually lay down on my left side and pop one of these in, just listen to an audiobook, and then just kind of vibe, right? These are also great at learning how to retrain muscles to pushing. So we're going to use me as an example. A lot of people, when they push, you push from like your butt area, right? You need to be pushing with here, with your abdominal, right? A lot of diaphragmatic breathing and stuff like that you like maybe watch videos on and stuff. That is very helpful in pushing air into the pelvic area. So what you need to be doing is when you're breathing in, you're breathing that air into your pelvic floor. So again, Dr. Bree, the male pelvic floor therapist there, if you're a male, or any of Dr. Bree's videos if you're female, you breathe and basically focus that air into your pelvic area. And the goal is to relax the pelvic floor. Now, even if you can get the pelvic floor relaxed, does not necessarily mean that you can have a bowel movement, because again, stool consistency, which is the thing that I'm dealing with right now, is a big part of it. So if your stools are very thin and very, like, your body can't relax enough to just drop it out, and maybe you do have to push with your stomach, right? And you're like, doing the moo to poo and all that sort of stuff. If there's no like traction behind it and it can't push that out, like, it's not going to happen. So that is where medications come into play and can help. So I know everybody probably already has these, but I figured I would go ahead and cover some of these too. So me, this is like the bathroom that guests and stuff don't really get to come to, but I have a stock of fleet enemas. So fleet enemas are very good when you have, maybe it's not a stool consistency problem, maybe it's just the fact that you can't push it all out, or maybe it got partially stuck. That has happened to me before. That's super frustrating. These can help you at least elicit enough of a bowel movement to get the rest of it out. However, if you're dealing with, like me, where it's very, very thin and sometimes you just cannot get it out, then you want to get yourself, which I need to refill, a stock of enemas. Now, these are the Fleet Saline enemas. Pick them up at CVS. I generally have a drawer just completely full of them. And so my doctor and my physical therapist have both said that essentially you can use enemas like infinitely, because your body can't really be trained to rely on them so much. However, you want to like not use them if you don't have to, sort of thing. So part of it is like I'm trying to retrain my body, and when I struggle and like today, I had a rough day, get to the end of the day to where I can get home, clear out whatever's there that's bugging me. That way I can get through the rest of my day and enjoy my night and not revolve my whole life around this, which again, it's very difficult because it kind of does revolve completely around this. So as disappointing and depressing as that sounds, right? So and so same thing with the pelvic floor, the dilators. So there's 2 sets if you need smaller ones. I bought both because I wasn't entirely sure when I started this journey like what I would need, and I think I started on the highest one of the low first, because I'm a bigger guy, so I'm bigger, but yeah, and then I've worked up. I am not on the maximum size dilator, but because again, I've noticed if I have good stool consistency, my body can release it. So I've realized that's kind of my key right now. So I've actually started adding Metamucil in the mornings to try to up my fiber intake and bulk out stool a bit more. And we'll see what ends up happening. We're only a couple weeks into that. And yeah, I'm gonna kind of keep going from there. But yeah, so I get it, guys. It's very stressful. And we revolve a lot. Like, Chat GPT is helpful too. Like if you want to sometimes just have an ear to talk to, you tell Chat GPT your symptoms, it's going to come back with all of the stuff that people have advised you 100 different times, and sometimes that's enough to put your mind at ease. So I've gotten to that too. But yeah, it is. It's super difficult, guys, and I don't wish this condition on my worst enemy. And I put these videos out. I know it's a lot of personal information, but I put it out because like I hope that it helps somebody out there. And our community it's not small, but it's definitely we're definitely fragmented, and people are dealing with different versions of pelvic floor disorder. There's females dealing with tight vaginal problems, or childbirth causing stuff. Various males having all sorts of different problems. And the shitty part is that like the dyssynergia or anismus, that sort of stuff trickles over to like you'll start having sexual problems. There's just a lot. Like it builds and builds and builds, and then it builds to depression, it builds to loneliness, it builds to sadness. And it is. My heart goes out to all of y'all. I am thankful that, I retired from the military, so if heaven forbid I had to quit my job or whatever, I at least have some sort of income to get me through to whatever ends up being next. And I also have health care with the VA upcoming. And I'm thankful that I have a wife that is incredibly understanding and listens to me vent and doesn't really judge me. And if anything, she feels bad for me and wishes she could help, even though there's not much she can do. But I know not a lot of people are that blessed. I know a lot of you out there are dealing with this by yourself, or you feel like you're a burden. Trust me, I feel like a burden. You feel like a burden to your loved ones, right? Or maybe your spouse isn't nearly as understanding as mine, or maybe your financial situation is not solid, right? Maybe you're a 20-year-old that's like you're dealing with this stuff, but you have to go work at Burger King, and you don't know how to deal. And I do. I feel for you. I tremendously do. So this is my little part of trying to put something out there that, my story is not over. My story is still ongoing. I try to be as positive as humanly possible, but the darkness does creep in. I'm starting to go talk to a therapist at the VA to talk over my health problems and just like have a sounding board to be like, this is frustrating. I've been dealing with it for now over 2 years. And yeah, I'm better-ish. I would say I'm probably anywhere from 50 to 70%, depending on the day, better. Because now I have tools to deal with the muscles, right? I have ways I've started differentiating. Ooh, that is a good tip. Sorry, I know I'm kind of rambling. That is a very, very good tip. You need to learn the difference between stool, gas, and muscles. That is a huge, huge key to dealing with this. Reason being, so I've realized if I have a good bowel movement in the morning, right, a decent one, that any discomfort that creeps in later in the day is 9 times out of 10 going to be muscles. Like it's almost never stool. It's always going to be muscles, or it's going to be gas, right? And the way I can tell that, so stool discomfort is generally going to be very sharp because it's thin and my body can't expel it. It's going to be very distinct and heavy. So the heaviness of it, the fact that I feel it like fully in the rectum, that's generally a sign that it's stool. Or the fact that it's pressure that kind of it builds and it's steady. It stays there like for a very extended amount of time. Those are all signs to me that it's a stool problem. If it's gas, it will mimic stool in a lot of ways. It'll feel like a fullness. It'll feel like a pressure down there. However, it's not nearly as full of a pressure. And generally speaking, if I move around and it kind of disappears, that tells me that it's probably gas. And what's happening is the gas is being pushed down there. My pelvic floor is guarding, and so it's not signaling to release the gas like a normal person. And so then that's creating that feeling like, oh shit, there's something there, even though there's absolutely nothing there. It's just gas, right? And then also if it's kind of like if it's traveling from like the left side of my stomach over to the center and then kind of chills there, that generally tells me it's a gas problem sneaking down there. So, and then for muscles, because you need to learn yourself, if it is left-sided pressure and it is strictly on the left side, it is always muscles for me, 100% of the time. It can sometimes be gas combined with muscles because I guess let me use my hands to talk about this a little bit. Sorry, I'm trying to put the phone down. So your pelvic, area, right? So your rectum is kind of like a bowl, right? So in order for you to release, basically you get the signal up here, and then that's going to cause it to just kind of open like a flower, and then everything just kind of falls out. That's how it's supposed to work. So the problem is, especially when you have a left OI problem, is that your stomach, right, in your guts, they travel down the left side. It's like a big C, kind of comes up and then comes down to the rectum. When your OI is tight, which that's kind of where everything comes in, is on that left side, it can basically block the canal. And so those receptors on the left side, essentially, instead of signaling gas or stool or whatever it might be, it signals like, hey, there's pressure here, but I don't know entirely what it is. And then that's for you to figure out. 9 times out of 10, people will interpret that as stool. And that's been a big game changer for me, is realizing that it's not stool. And so not to go sit down, not to try to go to the bathroom, not to just whatever. Usually what I do is I'll lay on the couch or whatever, and I'll just kind of breathe and try to breathe through it and try to relax it. Sometimes it does not entirely work. And so I tend to sleep a lot with a warming blanket on my stomach to kind of help with that. And then sometimes I'll take sitz baths if it gets bad enough, or if I feel sore, then I'll go take a sitz bath. So, which I don't actually do like sitting in the toilet sitz bath. I actually just fill up the tub with warm water and sit in the tub. It serves the same function, guys, but that tends to help sometimes with that too. So just realizing what it is can go a huge long way to at least helping your mental health, and then helping you not like rush to the toilet thinking that, oh no, that's a signal, like the pressure is I have to go poop. No, it's not. That's not what that pressure is. You have to figure out what the pressure is, and it's troubleshooting. You're troubleshooting your body. So you have to learn, and that's kind of how I've been able to differentiate the three. Sometimes it's still a little tricky, because sometimes I'm like, okay, is it this or is it this? But generally speaking, I can be pretty close to knowing what it is. So, and that's been very helpful too. So anyways, I've been talking for 30 minutes. I gotta get this thing uploaded, but that's an update. I'll try to come back here, I guess, later this year and let you guys kind of know. I'm not stopping living. That's the big thing. Don't stop living. Live your life. Figure out ways to deal with this. It's just like any other disease or problem, right? We have to figure out ways forward so that we can live our lives. If we sit at home just sad and depressed and anxious all the time, that's not life, right? So I've been going to the park with my wife. We went and did an obstacle course the other week. I still eat most the foods that I want to eat. I still I do painting. I do miniature painting a lot. I'm actually trying to write a book, just a personal project book. I still go to work, still play video games, still, whatever, go swimming. So I try to live the best I can. Some days, yes, I might not feel up to everything, and those are the days that I just kind of chillax, watch TV or whatever. But yeah, don't stop. Keep going. Know that I'm here for you. Okay, bye.